Hi, and welcome back to another finance video. My name's Kevin Wright, and I give these property finance tips on a weekly basis. What are we talking about this week? We're talking about flats above commercial premises, shops, offices, whatever. Are they a good investment or not? If you're interested in flats above commercial, keep watching. So, flats above commercial, and let's face it, there's loads of them, isn't there? You know, the three types of retail premises, which is prime, secondary and tertiary. Then there's plenty of shops that have got flats above. Should you be looking at these an investment? And if you are there any problems in getting the mortgages? So let's examine that. Now, they are attractive to investors because they have a good yield compared to a comparable size, let's say a 50 square metre flat in a residential block. A similar size flat in a parade of shops is typically going to be proportionally cheaper, and that's because it's deemed to a degree less desirable to live in than a complete residential block, and that's because you've got commercial activity underneath it. What are lenders' views on this? What are mortgage lenders' views? The standard buy-to-let lenders actually don't like flats above commercial at all. So you're never going to get a full choice of lenders if you have a flat above commercial premises, shops, offices and the like. In comparison, you would get a full complement of lenders for a flat in a residential block. Let me just say a low-rise residential block up to 4 stories is what mortgage lenders like. 4 stories in a residential block, and you pretty much got your pick of lenders. You got the question about the lease, and it needs to be a fairly long lease, getting on for 100 years. So, but if it's not a long lease, that's a different issue. But we're just talking about the mainstream lenders here. So you're always going to have a reduced choice of lenders. You might say, well, what's the difference? Flat's a flat, isn't it? Well, actually, no, it's not. Think about lenders in a multitude of ways, but this is another one. They've always got an eye on, if we have to repossess you, how do we get our money back? And their perception is that the demand to live in flats above shops and offices is lower than the demand to live in a residential block. So therefore, they believe they're going to have more trouble getting rid of a flat above a shop than they would in a normal residential flat. So therefore, they're reluctant to lend. Some will lend, but some won't. Then you drill down to another level. So let's go down another level now and say, well, is it the same for all types of shops or offices? No. Now, what becomes important to say, well, how many lenders? We know we haven't got a full choice of lenders, but, on a reduced choice, how reduced is it? Now it depends on the activities in the shop below, but not just the shop below. It's also the shops adjacent, and possibly in a small, not town centre location. And if you've got shops on both sides of a fairly narrow road, it could be the shops directly opposite as well. What lenders are looking at and wary of is anything that depresses the demand to buy the property even further. So they're looking at activities, and they focus on a certain number of activities. So let's look at those. Opening hours is the first thing they look at. What hours are the shops below and adjacent open? Are they open the standard daytime hours of 9 to 5 or 5:30? If they are, great, that's a tick. Because what they're concerned about is antisocial opening hours that are going to create disturbance of varying degrees to the residents of the flat above. Anything that has late night opening, and you can all think of shops that are open late into the evening, restaurants, takeaways, convenience stores. Late opening hours means there's going to be more noise, and more noise is antisocial, and that can irritate the people living in the flats above. Now, do they prepare and cook food on the premises? Because if they do, we know that cooking smells rise, don't they? So if the shop, again, below or adjacent, prepares and cooks food on the premises, then that's another X in the box. Not a tick, it's an X. So that's another black mark against it. And of course, takeaways and restaurants are going to be open late at night. That's the nature of them, isn't it? So we've got two things, antisocial hours and cooking smells. Now we have a third thing. Does it have an alcohol license? Does it sell alcohol? And of course, restaurants do, takeaways probably not. But then, you know, the convenience stores, they probably sell alcohol as well. The issue there is people drink alcohol and they tend to get a bit noisier when they've drunk alcohol. So now you've got people late at night drinking alcohol and making more noise than they would. Even more antisocial. So now we've got three things. Another thing is combustible materials. Are they stored on the premises? Are there things that are likely to go bang if there's any sort of, you know, flame or any sort of thing like that? So if they are, and you could have, you know, things like plumbers merchants with gas cylinders in there, aerosols, so anything that stocks aerosols. So there's a whole range of things. You can see that there's quite a few shops that have got activities that are going to make lenders even less likely to want to lend. The more of these black marks that you get, your choice of lenders is going down and down and down and down. And we're talking about the standard sort of buy-to-let or even main residence lenders here. Commercial lenders are a bit more forgiving on that because they're used to lending on commercial properties. Now, they'd be happier, they will lend on a flat in an isolation, but they'd be happier on lending on the whole building. They'd be lending on the shop and the flat or flats above. I said to you that flats above commercial were attractive to investors because you get more bang for your buck. You get more square meterage for your flat. But the other thing that attracts investors is that from a rental point of view, there's typically very little differential. So you could get more or less the same rent for a flat above a shop than you could a flat in a residential block. So of course you're buying it cheaper, rent's the same. Obviously that's what attracts investors. This has been the case for years. So you have to be very careful on your choice of flat above a shop if you want to do it, and you want to make sure that there's none of the things that I've said that are going on below. Otherwise you're going to find it maybe not impossible, but difficult to get a mortgage. And when you find lenders that do something that most other lenders won't do, you can be sure that they won't do it at market leading rates. If you've got a flat above a restaurant, a takeaway, a late opening convenience store with an alcohol license, all that sort of stuff, you're going to invariably pay higher rates for the mortgage. You know, I've just given you a flavour there. You know, there could be other instances that lenders would find unfavourable, but I've just given you some of the main ones there. And it's just to alert you to the fact that you need to be careful if you're going to consider investing in flats above commercial. So there we are. That's it for this week. So now you've got an understanding of how you should approach investing in flats above commercial properties. If you've liked this, then have a look around. I've got a bundle of other videos, so there'll be a couple of suggestions here, and click that subscribe button if you haven't done that already. So there we are. That's it for this week. I'll see you next week with another property finance tip.